Welcome to the Swing Trading with Cycles channel. We're doing our update on gold today. It's February 17th, 2023, and it does look like we may be putting in a daily cycle low. It's certainly the makings of a reversal candle. You can look at the separate video about Dixie. We have a bearish candle on the daily for Dixie, so not surprising that we're getting a little bit of a rally for gold and a little bit of a pullback for the Dixie. We'll have to see how far it goes. If you're new to the channel, definitely take a look at the pinned tweet. Just to be crystal clear, this here in September appears to be a long-term bottom for gold, the 8-year cycle low, as it were. And so this is a big test. Definitely take a look at the previous video where I talked about this. This is the first big test of the 8-year cycle low. Will this hold up? You see we made the low here, and then we came back, tested it here. This is sort of a triple bottom kind of situation. And since this low here, we rallied for 65 days, a furious rally, about 21%, something like that. And then we had this big bearish outside candle on the daily, which signaled it was like a bell ringing. The daily cycle decline has begun, and it's also a weekly cycle decline. And I mentioned that on Twitter. I had a whole poll. It looks like about 40% of people decided that they are going to just kind of ride out the storm, right? They said essentially, I'm going to remain fully invested as opposed to shorting or hedging, which is interesting. I mean, we're going to see, let's see how deep this pullback goes, of course. But this is definitely the makings of a reversal candle, and this is actually almost a bullish outside candle. It needs to get above 1845.29 to become a bullish outside candle. So you can see the this poll here, I think it was, right, 39% of people said they're remaining invested. 23% of people, interestingly enough, no position yet. So that's a good place to be, to kind of see, does the 8-year cycle low hold? So what day is this? Let's just see. What day of the daily cycle are we on here? Because certainly there's no reason why this couldn't be a daily cycle low. The catch is we're also in weekly cycle decline. So just because we're getting a daily cycle low doesn't mean we're out of the woods. That's super important to understand. And that's why these videos are important, because you just can't explain this nuance. It's hard to explain this nuance in a tweet or even a tweet thread. But like, we could get a daily cycle low and it could still be bearish. I mean, first off, I just hope you can see this picture perfect downtrend. Big move down, little bear flag, higher low, move down, higher low, or excuse me, lower high, move down. And so it wouldn't be surprising to get a move all the way back up to even like 1880 before another move down. And I would suspect we're going to get to the mid 1700s. That's about a 50% retracement of this whole move. It's entirely possible that we're going to just skyrocket from here back to all-time highs. I'm open to that possibility watching the price action. That wouldn't be the base case. Now, this is your weekly cycle, right? Or this is your weekly chart. You can see this is your big bearish outside candle. Remember the one on the daily? Well, that had enough follow through that it turned the weekly candle into a bearish outside candle. I mean, you can see, look at these two big candles, right? Like going back to the daily, this is your bearish outside candle. That was your daily cycle high. And then you have a big candle to follow through. That's why I suggest this is going to be a longer correction. This is a compound candle. When you combine these two candles, I mean, look at this downside. You go from 1959 to a low of 1861. So that's $100 move in 2 days. That's big momentum down. And so again, that move causes this bearish outside candle on the weekly. And that gives us our weekly cycle high on week 18. So this is week 19, more of a consolidation than anything else. And then this is week 20. Now notice we're getting this rally on a lower time frame. So we're getting a lower wick here. And you can see this line here is just my estimate of where this decline may end. So this is week 20. So it's not super early for it to be a weekly cycle low. Like it could be. This could be a weekly cycle low in week 20. There's no reason it can't be. But you want to be careful. Again, the strength of this downside move suggests what you're probably going to see is a little bit of a rally into a lower high and then a move down just to kind of create some more energy. Again, what's key though is, will this 8-year cycle low hold, right? Just like the 8 years, like this was your previous 8-year cycle low back here. And you had this move here on the weekly level that got nowhere near the 8-year cycle low. And you were like, all right, I'm golden. This is it. This was really scary because it went below that for sure. But this is your analog. You want to watch for that. Are we going to get, and to be clear, that level, we'll see it on the monthly chart. It's easier to see, is 1735, right? That's the September candle that marks the low here. Once we crossed above the high of that candle at 1735, We had a low in place, and so we need to remain above that to stay bullish. And so let's move on to silver and the miners. So silver is definitely weaker, which always happens. Silver gets crushed on these declines. So silver had its top here, so it was the same day as gold. Very bearish because it went up and made a higher high than this high that had been the high for a long time, and then it kind of made its move down. Again, you see this move like this. Just structurally, this is telling you we're going to get a little bit of a, like you would expect a little bit of a retracement before a further move down, right? Just structurally. And what day does that put us on for silver? So say that this high was on day 53. Wow. I guess you could also argue that this was a cycle low as well. It doesn't really matter. The point is, we've been declining for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 days. Because these daily cycles were so extended, it gives you sort of atypical daily cycle formation. And that's why it's always important to look at multiple time frames, just in general, to understand what's happening. But if you think about the weekly chart, that bearish outside candle that came on the daily happened on week 22. So whereas gold topped out on week 18, silver has topped out on week 22. So this is week 23. So this is week 24. So again, it's like it's late enough that it could be a weekly cycle low. That wouldn't be abnormal. You can see weekly cycle lows tend to be in the mid 20s, or really the high 20s, so like 27 weeks, 26 weeks, 28 weeks. But you have ones that are shorter. You have this one that was 18 weeks. You have this one that was longer at 31. And so it could be that this is going to be shorter to balance that out. We're going to have to see. Like structurally, tactically, next week's candle for the weekly is going to be an inside candle because it's going to be inside this range, right? So a low of 21.18 and a high of 22. I think gold is basically the same thing as well structurally, right? Because when you have that lower wick, what you're setting up is an inside candle for the following week. So that low is at 18.19 and the high is at 18.70. Important levels to know about because the candle next week, like right, you can expect that the Monday candle is going to open somewhere like right here, right? That'll be the start of your weekly candle for next week. So that's going to be good because we're either going to consolidate there and then make a move higher, or we're going to consolidate there before the next leg down. Either way, it gives you a chance of position, either short or long, because essentially price is going to kind of catch its breath a little bit. And let's look at silver on the monthly chart. It's not looking great. It's a bearish outside candle on the monthly chart, actually. I mean, you can see the monthly candle for last month was really small and really just a doji, which is never a great setup in an uptrend, right? Like we were trending up for 4 months, and then we have this little doji candle. More often than not, it is a sign that you're going to get a reversal. Not always, but in this case, we did get that reversal. And you can see it's a bearish outside candle because it makes a new high. And to be clear, that's the same bearish outside candle on the daily that formed the outside candle on the weekly. This is now your monthly candle because you got all that follow through. And so we also went below the low of December as well. So that's not amazing. If we look at the quarterly chart to get some more context, we have a big red quarterly candle. And to me, that means your new line in the sand is the low from last quarter, which is $18, just a little over 18. So that's going to be an important level to watch for silver. Of course, we know silver always underperforms gold to the downside. And finally, let's look at GDX. Similar position to silver here. Actually, going back to silver, if you assume it's a cycle that's closer to what we typically see from silver, so like, longer than 25 weeks, let's say, so it's anywhere from like 25 to 30 weeks, we would expect to get that low closer to like the first week of March. So we're not that far away. Next week would be week 25. So totally possible that we'll get one more daily cycle that rolls over, and then that daily cycle low is going to be our weekly cycle low. And similar picture for GDX on the monthly level. It's not a bearish outside monthly candle, but it did make a lower low, whereas gold hasn't made a lower low yet. Gold's lower low would come in at 18.23. So again, gold is outperforming to the downside, outperforming on the way to the downside, which is not surprising. And for GDX, it topped out on week 17, week 18, 19, 20. So to be clear, that means GDX is underperforming both gold and silver. That is usually not a good sign. But again, you're going to have an inside week next week. Inside the range of 29.84 to 27.79. So anything inside that is really just noise, consolidation. And the other kind of ratios that we monitor which we know the direction that they're going in because we're in a decline, we're in the weekly cycle decline, is the gold to silver ratio. You can see that is trending higher on the monthly chart. This is the second higher high on the monthly chart that we've had. That's important to continue to watch to see, is this swing high going to be in jeopardy? That's going to be important. And basically this thing is in a new weekly cycle, right? Like you can see that. It's pretty obvious. We have this big swing low here and we've been rallying ever since. So what week is this? This would be week number 8. So we're on week 8 and you can see this is set up for a pullback or at the very least a consolidation after 8 weeks of rally. But notice that last rally lasted for 19 weeks. So we could be setting up for a, left translated weekly cycle that rolls over soon, which would be very bullish for precious metals. And if we look at the GDX to GLD ratio, kind of understand how miners are performing versus gold, you can see it rolled over right when GDX did. And so when this bottoms, we should also see the bottom for the weekly cycle low. So patience, my friends, it will come. Right now, this hasn't been that crazy a decline. If you look at this decline. Look at this move. In 3 weeks, look how far we went down. Whereas here, this has been a much more orderly. We're like right here where price had kind of aggregated a little bit. So that's a little bit, that's kind of promising. The last thing I'll look at really quickly is platinum. We talked about this weeks ago that this was in weekly cycle decline. Now you can see I drew this projection. Notice there have been no lower highs really. There have been, just they've been very feeble. We expected a little bit more of a bounce on the way lower. Obviously that hasn't happened. And we're actually below where we kind of expected it to bottom. So that's interesting. And what week are we on right now? This is week number 24. And so if we're going to get a bottom on week 30, that means another 6 weeks of decline. And it also means because we've fallen in this straight line, you would imagine that finally we'll get a little retracement, a little higher low. So maybe something like this before a drop down into a weekly cycle, and probably it'll undercut this low. But this is actually not surprising if you think about it, because if we're getting a daily cycle low for gold and other precious metals, makes sense that we would get a little bit of a retracement for platinum before a lower low. Again, also possible that this daily cycle low is what's going to lead us to, or this daily cycle low is also a weekly cycle low for those other metals, which could mean that this becomes a weekly cycle low for platinum. We'd have to trade above 961 to make this a weekly swing low in week 24. So we'll be watching that. That's the helpful thing, that these are all multiple signals that we can watch. And as we see all the dominoes start to sort of line up, we can say, oh, we can have some pretty good confidence that we have our low here. And again, it's all about that potential 8-year cycle low. Is it going to hold? Let's see, how much of this rally have we given back? That's the last thing that we'll kind of look at really quickly, because this doesn't look like a very healthy pullback in my eye. So we rallied for 313 points, and we've given back 200 points. Yikes. So we've already given back about 2/3 of the rally. That's not usually a good sign, especially as we still have more length to go in the weekly cycle. So we'll be watching this pretty closely. Not super healthy. Again, the idea is you don't want to give back the whole rally. Look at this rally here. We gave it all back. We made a lower low. So that's what we want to be on guard for here with platinum, because platinum was rallying stronger than other precious metals as a sort of telltale signal. And so we want to watch that it's not telling us the same thing to the downside. So we'll leave it at that. That's our update on precious metals. More patience needed. The 8-year cycle low is being tested. Is it an 8-year cycle low? Will it hold? Is this a long-term bull market? We're going to find out very soon, folks, in just a few weeks. Thanks for watching.